This one comes from Paul, who asks, what do revelations about Rishi Sunak consulting with Dominic Cummings tell us about the Prime Minister's relationship with Isaac Levido and Conservative strategy for the general election? So this is referring to meetings between Dominic Cummings and Rishi Sunak last year that only came out in the new year. I think they met twice, one before he became Prime Minister and one during. And the reports suggest that they were discussing whether Cummings could help them behind the scenes with political strategy looking ahead to the next election. Nothing came out of it. Cummings wrote on his Substack recently that he had this list of demands he wanted reform on, sort of, nuclear strategy, AI, defence procurement, all of his the things that he wanted to change in government. And he says that Sunak said no. Number 10 say there was no job offer. It was just a discussion that they had about strategy. So nothing's really come of it. What was interesting, I think, was that Tory MPs are quite annoyed about it. And then also, what does it say about Rishi Sunak? The fact that he first had to go to Cummings, and then once Cummings made those demands, rejected them.
Well, that's the thing. I wonder what it says about our question refers to Isaac Levido, who, for listeners who don't know, he's the Tory election director who's credited with Scott Morrison's surprise victory in 2019 in Australia, and also Boris Johnson's very successful election campaign. He's behind the 5 pledges, but Sunak seems to have sort of wavered on those a little bit, kind of bottled it. Does it mean that, the Levido kind of influence is lessening if Sunak's going to someone else to try and seek this kind of help, Rachel?
Well, the rumours are that Isaac Levido told Sunak at the start of last year, responsible for the 5 pledges, halve inflation, get the economy growing, reduce debt, cut NHS waiting lists and stop the boats, but said it would take time for the action on those pledges to feed through into poll ratings. Like, it wouldn't be a quick fix.
Yeah.
And that over the summer, Sunak, even though he'd been told it won't happen by summer, looked at the poll ratings and went, this isn't working, I need to do something. And one of the somethings was to go meet with Dominic Cummings. Another one was the fact that he then started talking about a big reset, watering down net zero pledges. The whole Tory party conference theme was about making Sunak the change candidate. And then obviously he brought back David Cameron. So there's been a lot of resets that seem to be suggesting that Sunak had a plan that then lost his nerve and didn't feel that sticking to the plan was going to work. And because he didn't stick to the plan, we'll never know, had he just kind of stayed steady with that and played it straight, would that have succeeded? But I think the Dominic Cummings thing, having the meeting, is kind of interesting on a number of levels, because the fact that he had the meeting in the first place, regardless of whether he offered him a job or what was agreed or not, and I think we should take anything Dominic Cummings says with a pinch of salt, the fact is that suggests that Conservatives still think that Dominic Cummings has this magic touch and ability to connect with the electorate or to shape an election campaign that other strategists, even ones who have had huge success, which Isaac Levido has, don't have. And I'm not sure there's really evidence for that. Obviously, Dominic Cummings is very influential in Vote Leave, influential as well with Boris Johnson in 2019, but things have changed a lot. 2019 election was about a lot of other factors, big one being Brexit, a big one being Jeremy Corbyn. Dominic Cummings' own reputation has suffered massively. The trip up to Durham and Barnard Castle still gets mentioned on the doorsteps, according to candidates that I've spoken to. People are still really angry about that, even if Westminster has kind of moved on a bit. The text messages that came out during the COVID inquiry, for people who were paying attention to that, all the expletives, the language, the threatening behaviour. I don't think Dominic Cummings is this sort of genius guru who could flick a light switch and suddenly make Rishi Sunak popular. And the fact that Rishi Sunak thought even for a moment that he might be that kind of suggests a bit of desperation.
Yeah, well, it was seen as very risky for Johnson to take Cummings into number 10, wasn't it, in the first place? And so perhaps Sunak, again, is proving that he's not particularly adept at politics. If that's something he was truly contemplating, we don't know if it really was.
Yeah, completely. And we've also got to remember that Cummings was a big fan of Sunak when he was Chancellor. Yeah. The rumours were that he was the one that actually pushed Rishi into position and was obviously the one that got rid of Sajid Javid, who was Chancellor at the time. So it's interesting that there's now this divergence between the two. Dominic Cummings is essentially saying that he wants the Tory party to die. because he doesn't think it's capable of reforming the political institutions in the country in the way that he thinks. And I think that's the interesting thing. It just shows how different the political approaches of the two men are. You got Rishi Sunak. Well, first of all, the key thing is that reportedly Dominic Cummings suggested a few things that he would like Rishi to do to win the next election. It was, massively increasing the tax bracket for the 40p rate up to 100,000. Scrapping HS2 was one of them. It was solving the NHS crises and the strikes. So these things were quite drastic. They're almost Trussite in their focus on reducing taxes. He also wanted to reduce some of the other taxes that Rishi Sunak had raised when he was Chancellor under Boris Johnson. So that obviously cuts against Rishi Sunak's fiscal conservatism. It goes against his instincts. He doesn't take that many risks. We look at some of the policies, the policy ideas that Rishi Sunak's come out with that aren't just retreating or U-turning on things. We've got things like maths till 18. Chess tables. Changing and reforming A-levels and GCSEs. They're not exactly radical reforming constitutional or systemic programs. So I think they're just completely different. They have different diagnoses of where the state is.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. We'd love to know what you think. Please make sure you leave your comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this podcast, you can watch more of our videos on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to like and subscribe.